remiss in not recognizing two elected officials here. They're not part of the dais, and so I want to certainly recognize both of you tonight. So Sean Smith, who's a county legislator, is going to speak in a moment, but I certainly want to recognize you as elected official. And then Aaron McMullen, you are a state representative, and I want to recognize you for being here as elected officials also. So I didn't want to be remiss in missing that, so thank you for being here, and I look forward to hearing what you have to say. So thank you. The next person to speak is Aaron McMullen. So Aaron, come on up, and you've got 5 minutes. And please state your address too, please.
Greetings, my name is Aaron McMullen. I live at 1804 South Sioux Court. Greetings, Mayor and Independent City Council. My name is Aaron McMullen. I represent roughly about 28,000 people in the city of Independence. Moreover, I'm a citizen of Independence and care for my community greatly. In my capacity as a representative, I've received dozens of emails and phone calls from constituents beside themselves due to recent property tax increases. The property tax increase hurts the most vulnerable parts of our population, the disabled, the retired, and the poor. Property owners are not the only people to suffer from these increases, as people who live with leases will already have and already will have their rental rates increased as raised property taxes have been passed on to them. I have the unique perspective of working on the Special Committee on Tax Reform and have voted to pass every property tax decrease, including Senate Bill 190. We need to act and put as much pressure on Jackson County to enact Senate Bill 190 and also uncover any malpractice concerning the new property tax increases on behalf of the citizens of Independence. I can speak without a doubt in my mind that people of Independence want us to exercise all possible remedies on their behalf to provide relief for these burdensome tax increases.
Amen.
Challenging taxes such as these is ingrained in American culture, starting with the Boston Tea Party to the revolutionary cry of no taxation without representation. Therefore, I support the most honorable gentleman from the 3rd District's resolution 23764 and 23765 and ask for your support as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Next is also elected official, Jackson County Legislature. Sean, you are next up, and you have 5 minutes. And please state your address.
I don't know.
I'm sorry, what?
I was just joking, said I don't think I want everybody to know my address.
It's sunshineable.
Everything about me is public these days, including the value of my property, thanks to the Kansas City Star.
There you go.
So my name is Sean Smith. I live at 1516 Southwest Hedgewood Lane in Lee Summit, Missouri. I come here today as not but an elected representative on the Jackson County Legislature. And I certainly want to speak in favor of 23764 and 23765. In my position as a Jackson County legislator, by the way, the only notes I needed was for the numbers of the resolutions. In my position as a Jackson County legislator, I have of course been contacted by, I will say, thousands of concerned citizens who received their reassessment notices with indications of massive increases. I've spent the last several weeks learning more about how computer-assisted modeling to do mass appraisals work than I ever would have thought necessary in an elected role. I come to that ability to understand that based on my professional career of 25 years in technology, information systems, and really having a deep understanding of similar tools, albeit for different purposes. I can say that in going through things in detail, that with over 100,000 properties, residential properties, out of the 300,000 presented to us by statute, by the assessor, that increased by more than 50, with a 50%, that the increase, the number of properties that were increased and the associated increases are massive and overwhelming. The question of the mathematics of how those values were derived is very, very different than probably most people would understand and probably well beyond my ability to discuss in this brief period. But I will say it represents a problem. It represents a solution, in a way, to decades of neglect on the part of the county where our assessed values required under state law were probably not correct. So the math, the one thing I will say about it, and then I will move off of the math, tries to derive what the value of property is based on various attributes, and success, according to the vendor, is 15% of property owners appealing. Right now, we're at 38,000 appeals that have been requested by citizens, and that represents about 12%. For me, 12%, with some of those ranging all the way up to 400, 500, 600%, doesn't feel like or look like success. Therefore, I certainly have been supportive at the county level of any remedy we can find that's lawful. I will go so far as to say if the courts need to intervene, which is to be determined, those solutions probably won't be very attractive either. But the reality is that even if the math was perfect, we also have a solution to remedy things, which is the appeal process, which has also been imperfect. Many citizens have reported, and I've personally witnessed, calling to get help and being on hold for hours. That's if the phone call goes through. And then, after hours on hold, being told you're next, your call will be answered next, and then being disconnected. This was even done live by the media, and they had the same result. So there's no question that the solution for those property owners who have been inaccurately assessed on the upside is very much
got 1 minute.
been a problem, right? So both with the math and with the solution to the bad math, which is supposed to be the appeal process, both have had a significant problem. We did pass a resolution as a county legislative group asking the county executive to step in and place a cap on the increases while the accuracy of those things continues to be determined. That would have benefits for both taxing entities like yourself in terms of your ability to forecast what your revenue is going to be and set your levy rate properly, and to the citizens who are currently panicked and thinking that they may very well be looking at losing their homes because they can't afford their property taxes. So I will encourage you to take all actions, and as I said, I support the resolutions that have been presented to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Next, we have Richard McKee. Richard, welcome this evening. Please state your address, and you've got 5 minutes, my friend.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Richard McKee. I live at 3804 Hayden Drive. I have lived there for 18 years, next to Sycamore Hills Park. We lost power on Friday at 4:20 p.m., and it was restored about 5:30 a.m. on Saturday. I just want to say a thank you to IPL workers. They were out there at 2:30 a.m. A tree from city property next to the creek, behind 3808, which is right next door to me, had hit the power lines. If you go north from the park along the creek, running up to 39th Street, which is city property along the creek, there is much overgrowth of trees and weeds. A neighbor of mine, a resident of 55 years, has asked Parks and Rec for several years about the erosion and overgrowth next to the creek. It could have been just an act of God, or needed maintenance may have stopped it. Please check into needed maintenance other than mowing in our city parks. Lots of neighbors use our local park. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McKee. your address, and then you've got 5 minutes.
I'm Jackie Davis. I live at 1725 Pine Avenue, Independence, 64052. I'm not here about the taxes. I'm here to find out if there's any way that the city could have like big dump trucks to pick up some of the brush and stuff that is falling in people's yards. It's very hard for a lot of people to get to that Vista Avenue address. And a lot of people, especially older people, they don't have pickup trucks and stuff like that. Kansas City does that. Kansas City has trucks and they pick them up. They're gonna stop picking up theirs up on Monday. And I just thought, surely we must have some big dump trucks here in Independence that maybe we could do that in the future. It sure would be a benefit to the people. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you
and
very
yes,
much.
my taxes did go up too. I'd like to sell it to whoever thinks it's worth that much.
And do you do comedy this weekend anywhere, any place I need to go see you? But we do have this week tree damage across the city. And we will have a free storm debris drop-off, so it's not a pickup, but if you can get it and drop it off on Wednesday, July 19th from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and then Saturday, July 22nd from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. at 875, that's 875 Vista Avenue for our residents. So that's at least one solution on that. So very, very good. Okay. Let's see, Deborah. The last name, Deborah. Yes.
It's when.
When? Okay. If I could ask you, Deborah, there's just a couple of things to be filled out. And you agree to follow the rules. If you could initial these,
Oh, sure.
I would be very, very grateful.
Yeah.
Just these right here.
Oh,
It just basically says, you're going to follow the rules. Exactly. But I have no doubt that you will do that.
My name's Deborah Wynn. I live at 2329 Viking Drive. And we've lived in Independence for probably 32 years. And the father of my children, my ex-husband, is Vietnamese. He came from north, not south. We never even knew that he was categorized as a transnational terrorist till, yeah. Anyway, we split up like 13 years ago, and I now live at 64057 near Lucy, who used to be on student council, and there was a Jackson County judge that retired.
So let me just clarify, is your address 2329 Viking Drive?
Yep,
Okay.
64057. right.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. I didn't have you say it earlier, so thank you.
Yeah, and when Vinny and I bought our home here in Independence, it was a VA repo. I grew up in real estate. We were trying to get the best deal. I didn't understand, as God is my witness, we didn't mean to pour salt in anyone's wounds over the darn war. We just was looking for the best deal when it came to the house. I used to work for disabled American veterans before I ever met Vinny, and all of our donations went to DAV. When we were married, I started volunteering in kindergarten because I worked nights and I couldn't see my kids. And then I believed that I was an inspiration to other moms because I did have a monopoly on the whole month. And then the other moms started volunteering. I discovered embezzlement by my boss. My boss thought I was some party girl from the hood, and he hired me in accounting, and I worked in the legal field, and I busted him. I was celebrating a promotion when I met their father. Once there was a girl who, a teenage girl, I believe she was 15, she got kidnapped from across from William Christman, and they found her, thank the Lord, and she was alive. I couldn't sleep, and I told the girl's dad I had to get up and go help find her. I went back to work in the next day in the accounting department, and we were all ladies, and we were listening, and they found her when we dropped everything we were doing Kids hung out at our house. One time their dad removed the leaf from the kitchen table and I said, no, Vinny, the girls are gonna be getting older. We want to know who in the world they're hanging out with. The next day he put the leaf back on the table. Us three went to church, me, Natalie, and Cicely. I could never get him to go to church. We got a boat, and I landed on the boat. We never had date nights because we were luge junkies, and we heard bad things about babysitters and things like that. So we never had date nights. We did once go see the movie Aviator. And we went out to dinner first, and then we went to the movies. It was a packed house at Independence Commons. I was explaining to their Vietnamese dad what happened when he went to the concession stand during the movie. This woman got smart aleck with me. She popped me in my cheek. I come from an urban core. I have 4 brothers, no sisters. Everything I did growing up in my formative years, I paid my debt to society. But she hit me. The police officer wouldn't let me press charges, so I...
You have 1 minute.
Oh, well, then I'm gonna have to come back for sure. I ended up, my girlfriends at AT&T said, Debbie, we'll go to court with you. And I go, no, I'm gonna do it the honest way, and come find out it doesn't work that way for me and my family in the city. My aunt, we have Seminole Indian on my side of the family, my dad's side. My aunt started hearing CB radio waves coming out of her ears. And this was around the time Cicely was born, my youngest, in '95. They went from doctor to doctor. She ended up, she died a very slow, painful death, and she was at home when she passed away.
I'm sorry that your time is expired.
That's cool. I'll be back.
Thank you.
I'm going to add, I'm tired of being, I'm tortured in my house, and I call the police, and the police don't do anything. Nobody sees anything, and a person can only take so much before they have to scream. It's too much.
Okay, thank you.
God bless everybody.
Next is Jacqueline Davy. Jacqueline?
No, I already did it.
Oh, you already did it. We're there. That's all. Okay. Jacqueline, please forgive me. I should get it.
Once was enough. I didn't
I
want
was just
that
looking
gavel
for you.
hit
You
me.
did a great job on the humor, so I was just looking for that.
I didn't want you to hit me with the gavel.
That won't happen. That's fine. Okay.
Did you get that note?
Yeah. Oh, where at?
Pardon?
Where at?
I don't know. Did you do Independence? I don't
Well,
know.
what
I
we're
just
going
saw
to
it
do
on
right
the
now,
news.
since Dan remembered this is
I saw
his
you a
last
few
city
weeks
council meeting.
back at one of these meetings.
Yeah.
And I've known
Thank you.
Dan for probably the majority of the 40 years that you've been here. And you're much beloved by your employees. They think you do a great job. I was incredibly impressed when we did a tour of the water department facilities, your thorough knowledge and understanding, and how friendly and kind you were to all of your friends that work at the city. So I just want to say congratulations. I wish you the best in retirement. I know Diane will probably have something for you to do, so you're not there all the time. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, dear.
It's a good thing you're on the way out. No, but with that, Dan and I go to the same church. I found out that this was actually his last meeting on Sunday as he was handing me communion. He says, Monday is my last day. I went to Mr. Cover and I said, Mr. Cover, was that mixing church and state? He says, absolutely. So this was your last meeting regardless, okay? So With that, we want to honor you. Come on up, we'll get some pictures, and Adam may say something at the end. Is that right, Adam?
Yeah, just while he's walking up here, you think about 40 years, that's probably about 900 city council meetings that he's been to during the course of his career. It's pretty extraordinary. Personally, I just really respect you, Dan, and we are definitely going to miss you.
Mayor presents this. Mr. Hobart always says that you've been here since they invented water. So I don't know if that's actually true, but my appreciation and gratitude to you for bringing on new council people and teaching us what we needed to know about the water system and the utilities.
You can better take your line.
Hey, Dr. McCandless is quite capable of her own.
She got your line. Very good. Congratulations. All right, and Dan, if you didn't see it, Jared was actually clapping on the video for you, so he did that. That brings us to consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the reports and recommendations of the city manager.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Are there any council members who wish to pull out items individually for discussion?
Resolution 23-763, please.
Get the resolution. Okay. 23-763. Very good. Anyone else want to pull anything out? Okay. Very good. With that, let's go ahead and approve the consent items minus 23-763. So if there's no other further discussion or questions, Madam Speaker, please take the roll.
Peters.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
McCandless. Yes. Steinmeier.
Yes.
Hobart.
Yes.
Mayor Rose.
And the consent agenda, that's yes, and the consent agenda is approved 7-0. Dr. McCandless, you have the floor in discussing 23-763.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And if you could do a favor first, please, I always forget this, please make a motion to approve it, we'll get a second, get it out of the way, and then we'll have you discuss.
Motion to approve 23-763.
Thank you.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Councilmember, you're free to proceed.
Thank you. This resolution is authorizing an agreement with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Bargaining Unit, so the WPC Local Union 53, for the term of July 17, 2023 through June 30th, 2026. This resolution, and I will ask for clarification if I misunderstand this, is to discuss, well, let me back up. So the council has approved an process for us to look at IP. What does it cost to maintain? What would happen if the city sold that? A very complicated set of questions with a lot of considerations, including considerations for the people who are our current employees, both what it takes to be a good employer to them, as well as what would happen if the city ended up choosing to sell. So something not to be taken lightly by anyone. And I appreciate that we have set up the process for a really in-depth discussion of what's important to everybody. Everybody needs to turn their lights on. What does that mean to have a high-quality, affordable system for people to have electricity? This resolution just feels premature. We have not had our report yet from our outside consultants, and so I just am thoughtful about things that I don't know, the financial or the fiscal implications and the legal implications for the city, that just makes me take pause. So I'm happy for thoughts from my other council members.
Council member. I think you've mistook this for going further down.
Excuse me.
I will let you talk again, though, that's not a problem.
This is,
We've just
no
got two of
worries.
them.
No, this is
Right.
the.
Yes, there are two
Yes.
local 53 items on the agenda. They're very close together on the agenda.
Save that thought.
No
I will do
worries,
that.
of course. For clarification, 23,763 is the contract that's been bargained for with the city manager's office and water pollution control employees.
Thank you.
Yes, of course. Easy enough to confuse, certainly on the agenda. So I'm assuming we're ready to proceed and vote on this item.
Yes.
Okay,
Wonderful.
very good. Any further discussion on 23,763?
Need to move for approval.
We've already got that.
Moved and seconded.
Yeah. I've switched it up. I've had them do it on the front end because I forget sometimes, council members. So I'm trying to make the process easier for my older brain to be able to follow through. So thank you, my friend. But thanks for being there for me. I appreciate that. All right. Any one other discussion on this item? We've got a motion and a second. Any other further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, Madam City Clerk, please call the roll on 23,763.
Peters.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
McCandless. Yes. Steinmeier.
Yes.
Hobart.
Yes.
Mayor Rowland.
Yes, and 23,763 from the consent agenda is in fact approved. And that brings us to the regular agenda. There are no public hearings today, so we've got non-ordinance items, and Madam City Clerk, you can proceed with reading the very first non-ordinance item, 23,764.
A resolution directing the city manager to consult with the city councilor to explore joining the class action lawsuit filed against Jackson County et al. Related to 2023 property tax assessment.
Very good. Any discussion on this item? Madam?
So I've already embarrassed myself once, so I'll step into it again. I just have concerns about whether we have standing to be able to join a lawsuit against another branch of government. And I'm sure that this resolution, which is to consult with the city councilor, that will be one of the aspects that you take into consideration if this motion passes, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on this item?
Mr. Mayor.
Please proceed.
This resolution is a result of many, many phone calls that we received, and they kind of started like this. All of them. I know there's nothing you can do because you weren't involved in this process, but people were frustrated. They were somewhat nervous. They had heard the stories, and they felt like they weren't getting anywhere. They were making phone calls. They weren't getting responses. And while we're just this municipality in this county, we're still elected representatives of people who are feeling like they are, well, they're very asset. The most important thing to them is being threatened. And there are times where we as elected officials have to remind ourselves that government is not entitled to your assets. You really are not. And taxing jurisdiction, the taxing authorities in certain jurisdictions are given by the people. And that means there's a sense of responsibility that goes with that. And I sat long and hard and thought about this, but what I wanted to do was give us the opportunity to stand with the residents that we represent. Yeah, whether we had anything to do with it or not, we are still elected officials and we still represent, for me, the 3rd District. But I love this entire city. And I have learned a great deal about this process. And I want to tell you, I am as disappointed in this process as I've ever been. Not surprised, but disappointed. And, you know, I have now had the opportunity, the privilege to talk to a few of the legislators, a few state representatives. And the thing that troubles me is that no one seems to have any type of solution. And when I would ask questions like, well, what are you going to do to help fix this? Then the question was always brought back to me. Well, what do you suggest? Well, I have a lot of suggestions. The problem is I don't have the ability to make those suggestions and to see any action taken upon them. The thing that I do know is that when we hear about this process, what I've heard is that it's, you know, there may be a ripple effect in our economy. I'm going to tell you something, it's not a ripple. It's going to be a monsoon. The fact is that when you get into the inequitable assessments that we're seeing, when you see the things that are happening to elderly people who are on very fixed incomes, and they're wondering where they're going to come up with 20, 30, 40% more. What do they give up? I've received those phone calls, so that's why I'm saying that to you. I've received the phone calls from the kids that said, you know, my mom is on $1,100 fixed income. What does she give up? She's not getting a raise. She give up her prescriptions, she give up utilities, which are now 6% higher. Does she give up food? Without her son, she's going to be homeless. That's what will happen, is there will be a lot of that going on. And if you think that it's only happening to homeowners and renters, you're escaping it, well, guess what? We have a friend who has 48 rental units, and across the board is a 90% increase in his assessments, 90%. So you calculate that with his insurance. Rents are probably going to go up 30 to 40%. But think about that. That's going to create such economic hardships. And there'll be inequities. And so don't for one second think that this is not a big deal and it'll work itself out. This is a big deal. And it's time for us to make a stand. And that's why I brought this resolution forward. I don't know what our city can do, but by golly, I trust our city councilor that he's going to look into it. And if there are aspects of this assessment that were not done properly or even illegally, then the county should be held accountable for that.
Mm-hmm.
That's my charge of what I'd like for Mr. Cobra to look into. And I know that we're just looking for the same treatment. We want to be treated right. We want our assets to be protected. And one day, you know what? We may even get to own something and not have to rent it back from the county. That's my hope. So I hope that this is something that you understand. I'm not saying go jump into a lawsuit. Let's look at this process and let's figure out if something's wrong. Let's make sure we find out what it was and that it doesn't happen again. Then let's work with our state reps that took the time to come out tonight, and let's try to figure out some solutions for this. So I hope that my colleagues will vote for this and stand with the people of this city.
All right. I understand this issue is a big issue. I understand you're angry. I understand your emotions. We are not going to disrespect the process of a body having a meeting. Now, I don't want to do this, but if it happens again, we will remove people that I have seen that have clapped.
Mr.
Okay?
Mayor, point of
Please.
order.
Please.
I'm sorry.
You think I've gone too far?
With all due respect.
Okay, I will withdraw my statement and we'll move on. Thank you, sir. Good point.
Mr. Mayor,
Please, thank you, sir. Please proceed.
I've had similar phone calls and conversations, and I'm personally affected by the assessment issue as well. I have a different question for Mr. Cobra, if I could.
Please proceed.
My question is really, my understanding is we're just exploring this as an option, and I'm assuming, and so am I correct that if you determined that it was an option, because I have similar concerns as to our standing, as Councilmember McKeon stated, if you did find out that there was an opportunity to do that in your research, would you come back to us in an executive session? Is that how that we would treat that?
That's correct.
Okay, that's what I need to know. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, please proceed. Thank you. I, like the rest of my colleagues, have had the phone calls, not a lot of emails on my side, but working in the district over the past good 3 to 4 weeks, I've heard a lot of the different stories and increases, and what am I going to do, and holy cow, how can they do that? I mean, we've heard it all. Just to put this into context for the district that I represent, the zip code 64053, their average income is $33,490. The average house is $88,000. That is the extreme northwest side of Independence, Carlisle neighborhood, Mount Washington neighborhood, Fairmont. I have absolutely concluded this county has acted absolutely recklessly, savagely against the citizens of Independence. And there is absolutely no reason that the constituents of this city, my district, should be trying to figure out how am I going to pay the extra $2,500, $3,000 extra to pay property tax for something that is so disorganized and it's just not appropriate. So I am going to vote in favor for this. I am strongly encouraging the rest of my colleagues to do the same, that we can put our voice as strongly as we can to our county legislators and to our state representatives to try to get this resolved and get it to where it needs to be. Our citizens deserve it, our city deserves it, and I'm just beside myself that we even have to deal with this. But here we are.
Thank you, Councilmember. Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor, just one more thing.
Sure, please proceed.
You know, the actions that the county has taken was communicated in the media. What our stance is unprecedented. So in terms of standing, it is an unprecedented move for a municipality in the county to look to have some type of legal reconciliation or comfort. I get that. I'm not saying that there is standing. I don't know that though, and none of us do. And until we ask the questions, I think we owe it to these people to make that unknown an educational piece. There may be things that we may be able to push back on. Mr. Kohler, and I hope that you understand it. What I'm asking you, I know is large, and that word unprecedented has been used, but know that we trust you to go and look at this and stand and do the right thing for our people. So I want you to know I have faith that you'll do that.
Anyone else? Further discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
Please proceed.
You know, as a lawyer, there's a real tendency, especially having done plaintiff's work, when somebody comes into your office and you evaluate a case, somebody wants to sue somebody. If my council member walked in and said, I want to sue the county, I would say, well, first thing you got to do is take a look at, do you have the right to sue that person or organization or whatever it might be? And there are times when it may not look like you have the right, or it may not feel like you have the right. And there are times when everything may point to the idea that you don't, and sometimes you file the suit anyway. And I don't and would not say whether I have a legal opinion on this issue sitting here tonight, because there are issues that are important enough enough that you take the stand anyway. And my colleagues have said it better than I will right now, that the point should be made and needs to be made. Mr. Perkins and I share demographics as well as any two districts do. And $2,000 or $3,000 literally are folks' utility bills, they're their food bills, they're their insurance, or their gas for their car to go to work. And the statement in itself of this resolution, I will thank Councilmember Steinmeier for, and will be voting in favor of. So regardless of where we fall out on this, I certainly will be asking, at the end of the day, whatever the opinion is, that we make the legal opinion public, if my council members agree, and take whatever next steps we need to, as we can, to continue to stand up for all of us. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I just want to say I concur with my colleagues. I think this will be unanimous, but with no further discussion, we'll proceed. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Mears,
Yes?
Perkins.
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
McCandless. Yes. Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Rowland.
Yes. 23-764 passes 7-0. Now that brings us to 23-765. Madam City Clerk, please read the bill.
A resolution imploring the Jackson County Executive to maintain assessed valuations for real property in Jackson County at their 2022 levels for calendar year 2023.
Thank you very much. Any discussion on this item? Mr. Proceed.
I want to make a motion to amend one of the whereases.
Okay.
One of the whereases mentions that the last day to do the appeals is July the 10th. I just want to make a motion to amend that to July the 31st, since that is now changed.
Okay. And it has so your motion is to amend it, that the appeal process will be up until July 31st, if I'm hearing it correctly.
Yes, the county's since moved that to July 31st, and this resolution states it was July the 10th.
Okay, we have a motion for an amendment. Is there a second to have this motion, this amendment proceed?
Second.
There is a motion and a second on this amendment. Is there any discussion on this amendment to recognize July 31st being the deadline for appeals of the county assessment process?
There will be another amendment, Mr. Mayor, so I think it'd be smoothest if we could vote on this one fairly quickly.
Okay, I just wanted to give everybody a chance to talk if they needed to. Of course. I agree with you. If there's no further discussion, I will honor your request, Councilmember, and call the roll on this. Is there no further discussion? Madam City Clerk, please call the roll on the amendment.
Mears,
Yes?
Perkins.
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
McCandless. Yes. Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Rowland.
Yes. And the amendment as read, moving the date to July 31st, is approved 7-0. Anyone else, any other amendments or discussion on this bill?
Mr. Mayor,
Please proceed.
I'd like to propose an amendment adding section 2. If the Jackson County Executive does not believe section 1 is allowed under the authority of their office, the Independent City Council requests the Jackson County Executive act within the responsibilities outlined in the Jackson County Charter to correct any errors in the calculation of assessed values of real property for the 2023 assessment period.
I'll second that.
So we've got a motion and a second for section 2 to be amended, basically saying that the county executive and his staff correct the errors, if I'm hearing it basically correctly, okay? Could I steal a copy of the amendment? That would be grateful. I think it's here, and I might have missed it. It is here, please forgive me.
It's on the back side.
Yep, I didn't look at it, thank you. Any further discussion on the amendment on section 2? No further discussion? Going once, going twice, three times? All right, with that being said, we'll vote on the amendment on section 2 as proposed. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll on the amendment.
Spears.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
McCandless.
Yes.
Steinmeier.
Yes.
Hobart.
Yes.
Mayor Rowland.
Yes. And the amendment in section 2 passes 7-0. This brings us back to the entire bill, unless there are any other amendments. And is there any discussion on the entire bill?
Mr. Mayor,
Please proceed.
so I've, just like everybody else, I've heard from a bunch of different constituents. Some are concerned they're going to lose their houses. I heard from someone that, she has a reverse mortgage and basically if she can't pay her property taxes, she'll either have to come up with the entire, amount of money she owes in the house, or basically they'll take it. I'm asking this because of what I believe is inconsistencies in this assessment process. Personally, my house went up 93%. I went to a VOE, the hearing officer. That didn't go well, and now I'm appealing it to the full board of equalization. I just, a lot of people don't have time to take on board to do this. It's just kind of this. So basically, what I'm asking is that the county basically just throw this out and go back to 2022. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? No further discussion. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Spears.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
McCandless. Yes. Steinmeier.
Yes.
Hobart.
Yes.
Mayor Rowland.
Yes. And 23-765 passes 7-0. And that brings us to 23-766. Madam City Clerk, please proceed.
A resolution directing the city manager to consult with the Missouri Local Government and State Retirement System laborers regarding
Laborers. That's okay.
regarding the pensions for employees of Independence Power and Light who are members of IDEW Local 53.
Thank you. And does anyone wish to have the floor on this item? Please proceed.
Mr. Mayor.
In Independence, labor's an extremely important part of who we are, and always has been. And the discussion on our public utility makes folks a little nervous, and me included. I am not a big fan of even the discussion of something. But should you, as a public utility, decide that that's what you wish to do, then it's only fitting that our members of IBEW 53 have a place at the table to rightfully discuss what happens to their members. This is all we're asking for me, is a place at the table, should this action take place, so that they can rightfully talk and discuss and negotiate what happens to their members in the case of this situation. So I'm going to be supporting it. I think that it is something that brings some tensions down, some nervousness down, and rightfully so.
Any other further discussion?
Mayor?
Please proceed.
So I fully understand concern by the union to the IBEW folks about this, and I certainly understand why we need to have discussions with them. The issue that I have in this regard at the moment is one of timing. For me, the concern I have is that we are so early in the process of evaluating. I mean, we haven't even issued a RFQ yet. When we've issued the RFQ, we haven't decided on a vendor to help us through this process, let alone to obtain any of the information that will be forthcoming, that we will need to evaluate to know how this impacts anyone not only the union, but the non-bargaining union employees, the city as a whole, the residents. We don't have any information on any of that at this point in time. And so I can't, in good conscience, lift up one particular group of people to vote to, take a stand in that regard without having any information to do so. And so, because I don't know how any of this is going to affect us going forward. So so I'll be voting no on this, and that's the reason I want to explain that is the case. It's not that I don't want to give, support to that discussion or that process, or that I'm in any way unconcerned about our employees. It's just that I think there's a bigger question, and we don't have enough information to even make this base level of a decision at this time. So that's why I'll be voting that way.
Any further discussion?
So, Mr. Mayor, I made my statement earlier in the wrong section of the agenda, but I understand why people are concerned, but I'm with Councilmember Fears and really feel like this is the cart before the horse. We're going to need to have many discussions, and I just feel like we're not ready for this particular resolution at this time, so I'll be voting no.
Thank you. Anyone else? No further discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
Please proceed.
Thank you, sir. Briefly, the lawyer in me says there's lots of problems, it's too early. It's not, the issue's not right. We certainly are a long way from the people of Independence voting on and deciding what they're going to do with the electric utility. So this is not an issue we need to even worry about yet. Now, the kid, Danny Hobart, that grew up in Independence in a blue-collar family with union grandpa and union uncles and working-class people that got free lunches and went to Luff Elementary and walked to school, says that I understand that people that work for a living worry about their futures, and that matters. And there are safeguards built into this resolution, and that sometimes is more important than the lawyer part. Sometimes being a person that cares about people is more important than being the lawyer. And that's the part that's going to vote tonight. So I will be voting in favor of this. And I hope it brings some peace to the folks that fixed our power last week after that storm. That's how I'll be voting. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any further discussion? Okay. With no further discussion, Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Fears,
No?
Perkins.
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
McCandless. No. Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Rowland.
Yes, and the item passes 5-2. This brings us to ordinances 23058, the second reading. City Clerk, please proceed.
An ordinance adopting amendments to the fiscal year 2022-2023 budget, which was approved by ordinance number 19340.
Any further discussion on this item? Mr. Norris, could I just ask for kind of a very brief summary of this? I'm trying to refresh my memory.
Brief summary. These are mostly adjustments to revenue due to grant funds or higher than expected revenue coming in for the last fiscal year.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else, other further discussions? Seeing none, Madam City Clerk, please call the roll for 23-058.
Fears,
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
McCandless. Yes. Steinmeier.
Yes.
Hobart.
Yes.
Mayor Rowland.
Yes, 23-058 passes 7-0. That brings us to 23-059. Madam City Clerk, please proceed.
An ordinance finding, determining, and declaring the necessity of acquiring temporary construction and grading easements and general utility easements for the Barnes Place Drainage Improvement Project, project number 131901, authorizing the negotiation and eminent domain proceedings if necessary, approving the plans and specifications for the project, authorizing the use of experts as needed, authorizing and directing the execution of documents and the payment of funds to property owners or others holding property rights in conjunction with the project.
Any discussion on 23-059? Seeing none, Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Fears,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
McCandless. Yes. Steinmeier.
Yes.
Hobart.
Yes.
Mayor Rowland.
Yes. 23-059 passes 7-0. That brings us to 23-060.
An ordinance terminating tax increments financing within the Eastland Center Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Plan area and authorizing certain actions relating thereto.
Any discussion on this item?
Mr. Mayor,
Please proceed.
may I address Mr. Norris, acting city manager?
Absolutely.
Mr. Norris, could you just briefly state what's happening here?
So yeah, we're closing out this TIF, and then the remaining pilot payments, and those will be distributed back to the taxing jurisdictions in accordance with the TIF Act.
Did this TIF just end naturally? Is that what's going on?
Yes, and we're terminating it now.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam City Clerk, please call the roll on 23-060.
Fears,
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
McCandless. Yes. Steinmeier.
Yes.
Hobart.
Yes.
Mayor Rowland.
Yes. 23-060 passes 7-0. That brings us to 23-061. Madam City Clerk, please proceed.
An ordinance amending section 3.03.007, aggressive dogs of the Independent City Code.
Any discussion on this? There were actually changes to this, and Councilmember Steinmeier, I agree with you on this. I think you asked for a higher insurance limit. They did check on that, and they added that in, and so I just wanted to make sure that was highlighted, that you asked for that. It was there, so you bet. Anyone else have further discussions? Yeah, I will be voting for this tonight, but I will be letting all of you know that I'm still doing some work on this, and I would like to add some adjustments to it. So we'll be talking about that in the future, but I go through the process and probably take it through a study session and things like that. I just want to give you a heads up. Anybody else have questions?
Mr. Mayor.
Please proceed.
Thank you very much. No, we had discussed one or two other changes as well that they're also working on. So there are still some others in the works.
Right.
So, thank you.
You bet. Anyone else?
Mayor, just to be clear, the changes that have been made so far, including the increase in insurance that was distributed to you all, that wasn't part of the original version that was in the packet. So those changes would need to be made to the ordinance prior to it being adopted.
So do we need to add amendments to that now?
Correct.
So do we need a motion on that?
You would need a motion and a vote on
Each of the amendments
well, you can do them individually, or you could do them
as it was distributed?
as it was distributed, if everyone is in agreement on voting that way, yes.
Okay. Can we have a motion to
Mr. Mayor.
approve this as it was distributed?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the amendments to ordinance 3.03.007 as distributed in, I move to approve the amendments as distributed ordinance number 23-061 of section 3.03.007 in the municipal code.
Thank you. Do we have a second? We've got a motion and a second to amend 23061 as amended in the distribution copy. If everyone's good with the distribution copy, we can certainly have a discussion on it. Any discussion on the amended version that was distributed to all of us? Seeing no discussion, we need to vote, Mr. Cover, if I'm correct, on the amended version, and then actually then vote on the ordinance itself.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I just want to clarify that for process sake. So with that being said, we'll just vote on the amended version at this point, then we'll vote for the final ruling on the bill. Then, so if there's no discussion, Madam City Clerk, please call the roll on the amendments, please.
Fears,
Yes?
Perkins.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
McCandless. Yes. Steinmeier.
Yes.
Hobart.
Yes.
Mayor Rowland.
Yes. And the amendments on 23061 as distributed is approved 7-0. That brings us to discussion of the main bill itself. Any discussion on that? No further discussion. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll on the second read for 23061.
Fears,
Yes?
Perkins.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
McCandless. Yes. Steinmeier.
Yes.
Hobart.
Yes.
Mayor Rowland.
Yes. And 23061 is approved 7-0. That brings us to first reads. And Madam City Clerk, you can just read all of the first reads, and that'll bring us to information only, and then Council.
clawback provisions in there that if the property doesn't properly develop within 24 months or doesn't start within 24 months, then it reverts back to the city. Unfortunately, comprehensive mental health has not proceeded with that project. We had a discussion with the leadership of comprehensive a few months ago, and they indicated they are not proceeding with that project at this point in time. So that's where it stands. We've been reimbursed we did some preliminary survey work as part of getting the site ready, and we've been fully reimbursed for our costs associated with that now.
If I may, thank you. I mean, so the importance of this, I want our citizens to know that we as a council, we as a city are taking the mental health, our homeless issue serious. We have reached out to Comprehensive Mental Health to be a partner. We had went through the complete agreement. They have not lived up to their agreement. I'm maybe a little bit more hard than you are, Mr. Norris. It's a complete disappointment. This was going to be a crisis center. We were going to donate the land, I believe, so this can be done. They have obviously have not pursued that. So next steps, Councilwoman Canlis and I, with Zach Walker, have met with different groups that were within the metro. Restart is one of them, to how can we bring partners into our community to help tackle this. So please understand that we are working on this. We have got to find the right partners who are willing to stand beside us to do it. So thank you for that information, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Steinmeier. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to wish Dan a happy retirement. I guess happy trails to you. Is that, are we supposed to sing that? So as you ride off into the sunset, I hope that you have enjoyed your time in the city. I know you have. Thank you for your service to our community. And more than anything, go have fun. You deserve it. It's a wonderful time. I want to also thank the representatives who showed up tonight to be in support of not a resolution, but of you. The greatest asset of this state sits in this room. The greatest asset of this county sits in this room. And you are absolutely the greatest asset of this city, and it is a privilege to serve you. We will continue to be vigilant. We want you to know, and we want you to become advocates for your assets. And it takes all of us. It really does. And there's much to be done. Much to be done, to my surprise. And so we're committed to not just working on what we can do on our side, but I'm committed to continuing the effort to work with Representative McMullen and any of the other state reps. I reached out to 3 and he showed up, so I was glad to have that time with him. And I know that as the state gets involved in this discussion, I'm going to expect that we play above the game and we come up with real solutions for everyone in this state, especially in this county and in this town. So thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for being vigilant, and let's keep up the good work on that side of it. On the other side too, I rode with IPD the other day, and we went to some homeless camps and looked at just what we're dealing with there. And we've got work to do. And my big concern in the midst of all of it is not just the mental health and the veteran services, but what's coming is the food insecurity issue. And so we're going to continue to work on that. And if you have any ideas, any suggestions, please feel free to email me or call me. I'd love to discuss it. But other than that, thank you, Mayor. I appreciate this. All I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Canlis.
I just wanted to give a shout out to the Jackson County legislators who came to a room full of 400 people who weren't very happy, fielded questions, actually did a very nice job in what was a very steamy room. Legislator Smith was there, and a bunch of others. I know a number of the city council members here attended. It's hard to be in that hot seat, so I will tell you that they hear loud and clear the concerns of the citizens. I think they're trying to explore every opportunity for coming up with a resolution. These are sticky problems, and so I just wanted to give them a shout out for that. It's also nice to celebrate things that are going well. Sometimes we just talk about challenges up here. For the City of Independence, 1 year ago we issued 601 new business licenses, and this year 683. So it's nice to be able to celebrate new businesses coming into the city, a real opportunity for us in our continued growth. So thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Riddleberg?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Montgomery, I got inspired. I started looking up what happened in July of 1983. So, Every Breath You Take by the Police was the #1 song. Return of the Jedi was the #1 movie. And Tom Watson won his 5th British Open Championship. So it's been a while, my friend. Good work and Godspeed and good luck. Councilman Perkins, man, it feels like a lifetime ago when we thought we were going to get that mental health facility built. And I remember how fast we thought that HCA was going to be the problem in getting that contract signed, and Brett Coleman somehow got their big bosses in Tennessee or Kentucky or wherever that was to sign off on that thing in about 6 months. And I can't tell you how disappointed I am in that. What a letdown. It seems like we scratch and claw for every inch on mental health and houselessness. And we'll just keep doing it, I suppose. So thank you for that. Thank you, Councilmember Canlis, for carrying that torch for us. Excellent work for both of you, and on everybody that's working on that, for sure. Anyway, thanks, Mr. Norris, for filling in for Mr. Walker this week, and sure sorry for all the folks with their property taxes, I guess me included. Mr. McMullen, thanks for coming out. We don't get a lot of state reps here in these parts. Genuinely appreciate that. Thank you. And for the reps that are here and the other folks that came tonight. Mr. Sorensen, I want to say, I know you like your warehouse job. Happy birthday, by the way. But there's $495,000, $119, if you want to go ahead and get back on that mic and run some radar.
I saw that.
So, you know, it will probably pay better than your warehouse job and be just as hot. So, just in case. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're quite welcome. I just got a couple of comments. I'd like to take a moment to thank the city staff that responded to the storms this past weekend. Councilmember Fears, my deep regrets, your time has expired. You know I'm teasing. Please go ahead.
All right, thank you. Appreciate that. Mr. Mayor, coming tonight from about 2 hours south west of Osceola, Missouri at Scout Camp. Most of you probably know it's no longer Boy Scout Camp, it's Scout Camp. We have girls and boys here. And it's a worthwhile endeavor. I'm on staff down here for the next, starting yesterday, for the next 10 days. And I know we have roughly 11 troops here from Independence. And so that's a good showing for Independence and Blue Elk District. this way and not have to drive home for the event. I share the concerns about the tax assessments. I'm affected like everyone else is, although my house was in a far different shape than it was. I had a 1,900% increase in my tax rate. Now that was because it was a vacant, mostly demolished house before I started building a new house 2 years ago when they last assessed. So I do understand that things are different, but still it's really a difficult situation, and one I'll probably be coming home for a Board of Equalization appeal. Want to give a shout out to Dan Montgomery as well. I was actually working for the city when Dan and when the city purchased the water department, and Dan came along with that, and I got a chance actually at that time to work with Dan to help some of that transition, and we've been friends ever since. And so Dan, best of luck to you, and thank you for all your years of service. I too appreciate those that were out working on the storm damage. I got several calls, and I know folks were out. I know people, it is difficult to be patient when you're out of power, but I know that we try to address those needs on a priority basis, and so I know that folks worked hard to get that done. And lastly, last week, I believe it was Thursday night, we attended an event where Councilmember McCandless and city manager and one of the school district
Anthony Mundane.
School district directors and our chief of police were able to, they attended a civil rights event, and they talked about that last Thursday, and that was very interesting and very eye-opening, and so just want to say I appreciate their efforts for that and the work that they did to prepare for that. It was, that's not easy necessarily, trying to share some of those heartfelt experiences and share them in a way that would be easily understood and kind of be able to understand the implications for those of us that didn't attend there. So appreciate that. And other than that, we're getting storms down this way. We've had now 3, so we hope that you don't get any more up there. So, all right, that's all I got, Mr. Mayor, and thank you.
And again, my apologies. Please forgive my oversight. So I'd just like to take a moment to thank the many staff members that responded to the storm this past weekend. To our Independence Power and Light crews, the mutual aid teams that joined us, our dispatchers, our emergency management teams, our municipal services, communication teams, you did a great job. And thank you for that. For the countless hours that you worked to restore the power, to keep our citizens safe, to keep all of us informed, to begin the cleanup process. And to Acting City Manager Norris, you kept me informed all weekend long with text, and I appreciate that. 2 a.m. was probably not needed, but the other ones were, so thank you. Also, regarding the cleanup, we've got more damage to pick up this week, but once again, the storm showed the power of our community and neighbors helping neighbors. So finally, as a reminder that I said earlier, we're holding a storm cleanup or drop-off depot Wednesday, July 19th, which is just 2 days away, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Then Saturday the 22nd, which is this upcoming Saturday, from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. at 875 Vista Avenue for our residents. So if you live in Kansas City, I apologize. I also wanted to talk about the mayor's trash pickup on Saturday. I will be honest with you, I never thought I would say this. With the trash that we saw in the city when we all started running and been over here. We went to Bundschuh Park to pick it up. We got there. it was so clean, we actually had to go to I-7, or not I-70, but we went to Sterling and 40 Highway to pick up trash there. We were not disappointed that time. So it was a target-rich environment. But we did pick it up there, so I want to give a shout out to Councilmember Canlis. Your program, Individuals Together, is doing a great job. Last I heard, 100,000 pounds of trash has been picked up, so leave me some next time, okay? Just a little bit. I also did a police ride-along this last week with Officer Conley. He did a great job. He taught me so much about the police department and what they do, so please tell Officer Conley he did a great job. I was incredibly impressed. An outstanding officer. We're lucky to have him serving our city. He also took me by a hotel, and this is for you, Acting City Manager Norris. You know my affection for video lottery machines. You've heard me before, right? Well, we need to talk about that because there's a hotel there that had several video lottery machines, and I will be happy to go on the codes right on that one. So we'll do that. I am so glad, Councilmember Fears, that you mentioned this. I too worked with Dan Montgomery. You started in '83, is that correct? I started in '81, so I just beat you by a little bit, but I didn't stay with the city. So there we go. You probably made the starter's choice. But anyway, we wanted to thank you for your work and it's a great friendship and keep everything up, And now I hope Diane has got an extensive to-do list for you tomorrow morning. Does she have one? I've got some suggestions. Have her call me. All right. With that being said, Mr. Norris, do you have any comments you'd like to close this session with?
Just want to thank our staff and thank you all for recognizing the team. Whenever we have a storm, snow, snow event, whatever it is, it's a shift for almost our entire organization, and it's a team effort. And I'd put this team up against just about anybody. So thank you.
Great job. Well done. With that, we'll call the meeting adjourned. Thank you.